Rich and flavorful mushroom gravy. This mushroom gravy is easy to make and comes together pretty quickly. I start by sauteing chopped onion in neutral oil. I'm using a pound of mushrooms in this gravy. However, you could easily use less. It really depends on if you want a more creamy or a more chunky gravy. The cleaned mushrooms can be cut in a variety of ways. I actually enjoy larger mushroom pieces, so that's what I'm using today. However, you could absolutely cut them in thin or thick slices, or chop them if you want a gravy with little to no chunks. Mushroom and garlic go in next. I'm going to allow the mushrooms to cook for about 5 minutes until they are fully cooked. They will shrink during the cooking process. I also want to release all the liquids from the mushrooms. Soon I will add the other ingredients. The purpose of each ingredient is to add as much umami flavor as I can. Any of these ingredients can be left out if you don't like them or if you have a tight budget. I do, however, recommend using the seasonings if possible. Again, we are trying to build as much flavor as we can here. The seasonings go in and toast for a minute, then I add the flour. The flour is used today as a thickener. I'm using a gluten-free flour, but regular flour works even better. We want the flour to cook for a couple of minutes to remove any of the raw flour flavor. When it comes to the liquids in this gravy, the wine can be completely left out if you like. Just use more broth. I highly recommend using broth over water as the broth also adds to the complexity. After adding the first liquid, be sure to scrape the bottom of the pan. We want to pull up all of those tiny stuck-on pieces because they are full of flavor. I'm adding dried mushrooms, white miso paste, soy sauce, and balsamic vinegar. Then the broth goes in. By the way, you do not taste the soy sauce or the miso paste in this recipe. They are added to build a complex flavor. I'm using a vegetable broth that I made. Check out my short on making a broth using kitchen scraps. You really want to use the best broth that you can for this dish. While a house-made broth isn't required, it really does make a much better gravy. A store-bought broth or bouillon would also work. I like to allow my gravy to simmer for an additional 10 minutes or so. This will give the flavor time to develop and allow the gravy to thicken. One thing you will notice me not adding today is salt. The soy sauce and miso paste do have a good bit of sodium, and if you are concerned with the amount of sodium, feel free to use less or none of the soy sauce or miso paste. Once the gravy is finished, I like to add a bit of milk or cream and a tablespoon of butter. The butter gives the gravy a shiny finish. When the gravy is finished, you could serve it as is or you could blend it. I prefer the gravy unblended personally, but if you do choose to blend the gravy, be aware that you will have to add additional liquid or it will be very thick. This gravy is not only good on mashed potatoes and other holiday foods, but goes well on top of a piece of crusty bread or a baked potato. Making great baked potatoes is very simple. Check out my baked potato short if you'd like some tips.